everybody, and welcome back to Finding Fashion. Today, I'm really excited to welcome my very first confidence and mindset coach to Finding Fashion, and it's Hattie MacAndrews. Lovely to see you. It's so lovely to talk to you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you so much. So can you tell me a little bit more about you?
Yeah, so I am a confidence and mindset coach. So I work with women to help them really on all areas of their life. So we can do relationships, careers, life, home, family, future, past, whatever it is. And we work together to help them find a really empowered mindset and to find confidence, to have the courage to go and make changes, move countries, move jobs, do whatever it is they want to do, and not be held back by fear or by blocks or, any of the stuff that holds us back really day to day.
It's such an exciting kind of development that we're seeing much more of right now, like more people kind of getting involved in coaching. A lot of my followers and people who'll be watching this are kind of starting out in the industry, either because they're students and they're graduating and they're interning, or they're changing career. How can that kind of like coaching be used throughout a career, whether you're starting out or established, to kind of really ensure you've got that confidence in your career?
So one thing that I've learned really quickly is it doesn't matter if you're starting out right at the beginning or if you've been in your job and your role for 20 years. I think so many of us face the same issues, and it all comes back to your confidence. So I'm such a big believer that if you don't have the confidence to do something and you don't have the right mindset, it's going to make your life very, very difficult. So I think in terms of wherever you are in your career, knowing that there's so many options out there for people to help you if you're not feeling confident, or if you're feeling, such normal things like imposter syndrome, or you're comparing yourself to others, or you don't feel like you're good enough to step into a role or to start a business. So what coaching really does is it gets you from the place you are now to where you want to be. And often that path or that journey can feel very overwhelming or very confusing, or like there's so many routes and we don't know what to do. So working with a coach really just helps you narrow that down and make sort of small, tangible steps to get you to where you want to be, starting with where you are now. So it's not like therapy. We don't dig around in your past. It's not super emotional, I would say. It's more like, okay, what do you want? What does that look like? How can I help you to get there?
So you actually started your career working in branding and communications before moving on to coaching. Was there like a pivotal moment that you kind of were switching your careers and you decided that this was something that was really needed in the industry?
To be honest, not really. There wasn't that one moment. I think when I started working in fashion in the industry, it was 12, it's just been my birthday, so 13 years ago.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Makes the maths more difficult. So it's 13 years ago, and I was fresh out of school. I was fairly confident that fashion is what I wanted to do. Obviously, I had no idea what that looked like or what that entailed. So I think I very much fell into it, as a lot of people do, thinking, oh, it'll be so fun and exciting. And what I learned really quickly is what makes me feel excited and what I like to do in my work is to help people. So whether it's help grow businesses or help people find their confidence, I think it took me time working in different segments of the industry, working in different industries, and kind of getting to a point where I was able to bring everything I learned, I guess, together, and start to do consulting and really help businesses get to the next step. And what I learned from that process was what holds all of us back and what stops all of us from doing most things we want to do is either not having the confidence to just do it or having the wrong mindset. So I think my journey to get to coaching has been kind of like this. Now I'm here, I think looking back, it makes so much sense. And I've learned so much from every role I've done or every business I've started. it's all kind of come together in a natural way that now for me working as a coach is like the most mind-blowingly obvious thing I can be doing.
I think we mentioned before we started recording that actually when you start out in the fashion industry, sorry, that whether you are established 20 years in or you are a student, it is a notoriously intimidating industry to work in. Like I was saying, like my first internship, I remember turning up and being so scared it's untrue.
Yeah.
And I think the industry has improved and potentially got a little bit more friendly over the last few years. What do you think like the main areas that need to be improved in the fashion industry are to stop it being kind of so intimidating? Because that does really affect our confidence, doesn't it?
Yeah, completely. I think a lot of that is, I think because when you work in the fashion industry, when you go into it, it's because it's something you've always wanted to do, or you've seen a magazine title or a brand, or there's a reason that you've gone down that route. And so it's very easy for us to put people or things or journalists or you know, where we're going onto a pedestal. And then we almost self-perpetuate that intimidation because it's something we've wanted so badly and we've put so much pressure on ourselves to get there, that then, like you said, walking through your first internship on that first day, it feels so terrifying because it's become this big deal, this thing that we've wanted for so long. And finally you get there and then you're like, oh God, what do I do now? Like, how do I behave? And I think so much of that comes from your education, how you're brought up by your family, your society, and the TV you watch, the magazines you read, your university experience. You know, if you've come from a very sheltered life in terms of going into a workplace and you don't have much experience, then going into any industry, going into any office for the first time, it feels terrifying. And so I think in terms of improving the industry, I think it's for industries on the whole to look at, if you want young people to come in and work for you, which of course they do, because, you know, young people are the future and they've got the ideas and they're excited and they're passionate. It's about how can you ease that transition so it doesn't feel overwhelming or terrifying or intimidating. And within that, there's so many things that can be done. But I think it's bridging the gap of, you know, when I started, I did my first internship before my A levels. So in that year between school, and I was looking back, I was 17. I was so young, had no idea what I was doing, had never really been into an office. I didn't understand how anything worked. And it was actually an interview for Tatler magazine. And I had written all these sweet little letters being like, I love fashion and I love magazines. Anyway, I'd gone for my interview, and whoever's interviewing me said, you know, so tell me what you've read in the last issue that you found really interesting. And I hadn't read the last issues. I don't think I'd ever picked the magazine up. And I remember walking out and thinking, that was so stupid not to be prepared. And it sounds so simple, but we're so young, and then you go into that bubble at uni, and then you're thrown out into the world, and it's okay, you're expected to now go into an office, go into a workplace and just know how to behave. And I think that is terrifying for everyone.
It is totally terrifying. And there's this narrative in the fashion industry where, you know, that you've got to make it, and it being so difficult, and, you know, knowing where you want to be, but not knowing the steps that you need to take to get there. So but uni, like all the time we're saying, like, what do you want to do? And they're like, well, they want to be a photographer. But it's having the confidence to know, right, these are the steps that I need to take to get there.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think kind of needs to could be the potential kind of support systems that could be in place for those younger graduates who are kind of going into their first roles to help them progress?
I think it's really a combination of work from the university side and from the workplace side. I think in an ideal world, if those two were to kind of come together and look at the system, look at the structure, look how it's working, and talk to students and say, students who are 1 year, 2 year, 3 years into employment, and say, okay, what happened for you? How did you find this? How did you get in? What could have helped? I think that for employees, it would be so helpful if they spent the time and the energy to preparing people coming in, whether that's educating them about the company's values, or it's giving them a real insight into the workplace, what's expected of them on a personal level, even just how the office interacts with each other. I think, like with everything, it's a case of education and spending the time by really investing in your staff or interns or graduates, whoever's coming in, and saying, this is how our company is, this is what we expect of you. Then it's up to you to say, okay, yes, I'm in, that's the kind of role I can see myself in, or actually, that's not for me. I think people go into new careers so blinded that then they get there, then a year, 2 years, 5 years down the line, people stop and think, God, I don't want to be here. This is not what I signed up for. How am I still here?
I think it's also like, especially the fashion industry moves so fast, doesn't it? Yeah. And even if you look at social media, for example, which is an area of the industry which has come out in the last, really boomed in the last 5 years. When I graduated, I didn't even get taught about social media at university, because we only just got Facebook. So it's not something that makes me feel ancient, but it doesn't make you. It means that you kind of don't give yourself all that like confidence in knowing what those like kind of new little nuggets of the industry is like, and what's out there.
Completely. I think with that though, there's so much preparation that one can do. If you look at job interviews, for example, you can learn everything about the company, the employees, the staff, the work, your experience. You can be so prepared. And then you can go in and an interviewer can just completely blindside you with a question, or, you can just be thrown on the spot. And I think that it's not always a case of being as prepared as possible. Yes, obviously that is helpful. But I think before you go into the workplace, if you're able to really invest time in yourself, find your confidence, work out what makes you tick, what makes you happy, what makes you excited, why you think you want to work in the fashion industry, what the reality of that is going to be like. And, graduates now are so lucky, they can go onto LinkedIn and Instagram and find 50 people who work at these companies. And, we've got so much information at our fingertips that there's so many ways that can be utilized in order to help prepare you for when you actually are ready to step into that workplace.
Do you think that the social media revolution has kind of been damaging to students in any way? Because whilst, of course, there's all of that information at our fingertips, there is a lot to be said for kind of comparison culture with having a knock-on effect on confidence.
Yeah, completely. And actually, unfortunately, something that I spend a lot of time coaching on and around is Instagram. And it's people comparing themselves, it's people not feeling good enough, it's people feeling upset when someone's posted a story and they've tagged someone and not them, and it's all these things that we didn't have to deal with, thankfully. So I think with Instagram, it is so complex, and I feel very grateful that I'm not a teenage girl growing up with the world it is now in terms of social media. I think especially in the fashion industry, it is absolutely terrifying, the filters and the editing, and I can so see how damaging and scary that is. But again, all we can do is educate ourselves on that. We have a responsibility as I'm going to say young women, but older than these younger women, to help younger people understand that not to take things at face value, that things aren't always as they seem. And approach that I really try and approach that I try to take with my clients is to empower them to think of Instagram as really what it was meant to be. Mm-hmm. So, you know, Instagram is, and it should be, a really fun, creative platform where you can find new things and you can watch stupid videos of dogs and you can learn how to make a rainbow cake and you can go traveling to some really weird, bizarre place in the world and, you know, have things recommended. Like, that is the functionality of Instagram. That's how it was made. And somewhere along the line, it's got lost. And I think that, you know, we always have a choice. And when it comes to Instagram, not only do you have a choice, but you have control. You have the power to choose who you follow. Be really careful and conscious when you're following people or creating your sort of your own bubble. Mm-hmm. If you're following influencers or people or celebrities that are triggering you, or they're making you feel less worthy, or they're making you feel like you're not good enough, that's okay. Just unfollow them. Mm-hmm. They don't have to be in your life. And with that, you can consciously then decide, okay, what's interesting to me? What kind of brands do I love? What kind of influencers do I like? Who's creating amazing content that I want to follow? What stupid like cat in the shower thing makes me laugh? It's about, you know, really taking a step back and having a new perspective and saying, okay, what do I actually want to see? And then once you've really worked around that and what sort of makes you feel creative and happy and excited, it's okay, well, what does my usage look like? Am I waking up in the morning and the first thing I'm doing is spending an hour scrolling through my Instagram, and then I feel like shit and I'm comparing myself to everyone and I'm depressed? You know, it's having that kind of self-awareness to look and think, okay, what's actually going on here? Like, how am I using this platform? Is it hindering me or is it empowering me?
What do you think the steps are to kind of identifying how Instagram is making us feel? Because it's so subconscious and it is really, it's kind of easier said than done to be looking through and okay, connect the dots and say, right, that post made me feel like shit. Whereas sometimes you don't really realize what's going kind of under the current. How do you kind of go through and really dissect it to think, right, I need to make this a much healthier place?
So I think, like you said, a lot of it is in our subconscious, but it also takes us to look at it and think, okay, how can I make this a healthier place? It's like with everything. It's like with your diet, your exercise routine, your morning routine. It's with anything. It's when you decide to make a change for whatever reason, it's then, you know, you're forced to take a step back and say, okay, what am I doing now? How's it making me feel? How would I like to feel? And what can I do to get there? So in that case with Instagram, it might be saying, okay, so what am I doing now? I'm spending 2 hours in the morning. I'm aimlessly scrolling through all day, and I'm sat on my sofa in the evening, and I'm, you know, mindlessly but constantly on Instagram. As a result, I feel. More often than not, people are going to say, deflated. I feel like I'm not pretty enough. My skin's not good enough. I'm not doing enough fun things. I don't have a boyfriend. I don't have a dog. You know, it's that horrible comparison. That doesn't make anyone feel good. So within that, it's looking at that and it's knowing, okay, well, you know, maybe it's a case of seeing a particular post and having a pang or having a negative thought about yourself. It's really trying to be aware and trying to think, what is it about this image or this content that's made me feel like I'm not good enough to work in that industry? Or you know, if you're a creative, my work isn't as good as their work. It's really just, it's making a conscious choice to look at that, and then it's having the awareness to step back. And sometimes, as a sort of practical tip, sometimes I say to people, okay, next time you're scrolling Instagram, whether you're in bed, in the bath, whatever you're doing, have a sort of notepad beside you. And when thoughts and feelings crop into your head, just jot them down. And then afterwards, when you're done, have a look and see those are the thoughts you're telling yourself. So if it's a page worth of, you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, your eyebrows aren't whatever's on trend at the minute, I don't know, is it cool to have freckles or not to have freckles? You know, if you're not following into these patterns and you're telling yourself you're not good enough, of course you're going to feel like you're not good enough, because how could you not?
Even before social media though, like I remember being at university and, you know, looking at other students who are on my course and thinking they're better at photography than me, or they're better at styling than me, or they're better at writing than me, and losing sight of kind of what I was better at. And I think you get so stuck into forgetting about being in your own lane, don't you? And kind of, I used to say to my students all the time, like, okay, maybe you're not quite as good at them as photography or whatever, but you're amazing at this. But it's really hard. It's hard to get into that mindset of actually kind of taking a step back and giving yourself a pat on the back and credit where it's credit's due.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. And I think with something you learn, I'm sure you found this quite quickly, when you're doing your first internship or you're doing your first job, you suddenly have so many different responsibilities and different things to do in your day. Yes, you might not be the most amazing writer, but you're probably incredibly friendly and you really get on with people, and you know, so they like working with you, or you're super efficient and so you get things done. I think when we're at school and when we're at uni and there's so much pressure on learning and qualifications and, you know, your exams and you're graded and you're good or bad, so often, you know, you're told you're good or bad. Actually, you get into the real world and you realize it doesn't work like that.
No, not at all.
The most amazing photographer in the world, but if you're, you know, if you don't know how to work with people, or you're not very collaborative, or you can't be bothered to do your admin or run your business, you're not going to be successful. So I think it's really, and it's so, isn't it so easy to say that with hindsight, but it's helping people to understand, helping young people to understand that you're not good or bad. There's no right or wrong. You know, we are all wonderfully unique, weird human beings with so many strengths and so many weaknesses.
Yeah.
And once you can kind of realize not only the things you're bad at, because that's what we love to focus on, but what are you good at? What makes you you, and why do people, you know, like to be around you or like to work with you?
Do you think that British people in general are particularly bad at not being able to sing our own praises?
Yes. I do. Yes, very much so.
Well, how can we change that?
I don't know. It's an interesting one, isn't it? I think it's obviously massively a cultural thing. And it's, you know, not wanting to, or not willing, or being very uncomfortable taking praise or bigging ourselves up. I think in a lot of industries that's fine, and that is just as is. In something like the fashion industry, where it is fiercely competitive, there's a million people waiting to take your job if you're not doing it properly, or you lose interest, or whatever it is. Sometimes you just have to shout about yourself. You know, if you want to get noticed, if you want to get to the next step, if you want to progress and learn and develop and really seize opportunities in something like the fashion industry, people aren't going to go out of their way to come and say, you know, why don't you come and tell me what you're good at, and I'll see if we can, you know, find something exciting for you to, let's say, as you're an intern and you're doing your 1,000th return for the day and you're in your hands and you know, you're doing the cupboard life. It's not other people's jobs to come and find you and give you that chance. It's for you to, you know, maybe you see there's like a big prep for a shoot going on, and seeing that, let's say, one of the assistants is struggling with packing, or they're trying to do the logistics, and just putting yourself forward and saying, hey, I'm like, I can see you're struggling to, I don't know, book this or do that. Like, I can help you. I've done this before. And it's standing up for yourself, because if you don't stand up for yourself, no one else is going to do it for you.
And they never know, do they? Like, when you're working in a department, like, people are really busy, but everybody loves help. Like, it's never going to go down badly, because even if you offered up your help and said, you know, I can do this, I've done this before, I can help you, and they say, I'm all right that time, they will come back to you again, because they will remember.
100%. So worst case scenario, someone says, oh, that's so kind, but, you know, we're okay, thank you, but we'll let you know next time.
Yeah.
It's having the balls, it's having the confidence just to say, even if you've never done it, or you don't know how you are going to do it, it's just to say, hey, I can do that. Or I'd love to give it a go, like, let me help you. I'll carry the bags, I'll do whatever it takes. Like, if you really want to work in an industry like fashion, sometimes you just have to carry the bags and get the coffee, and that is an achievement for the day.
When they say no, how can we kind of deal with that kind of rejection, as it were?
I think it's all about perspective. So if you put yourself forward and you say, let's say you're interning for a magazine or a website, and you really want to be a journalist, and you put yourself forward and you say, hey, I've had this great idea, I'd love to write a blog post or a piece on this. And they say, thank you, but no thank you, we're full for the week, or whatever it is. There's so many different ways you can take that on board. And the most natural one for a lot of people is, oh, it's because I'm not good enough, or they don't like my work, or they know that I'm actually rubbish at writing and I'm never going to be any good. Or you can come up with a new perspective and think, okay, well, what can I do next time? How else can I be useful? If I can't, submit some writing to this, what could I do that would help me, that would make me stand out? What's another opportunity I can find here that's not just saying, oh, it's, I knew that they wouldn't like my idea, because that attitude will never get you anywhere.
Totally.
Will it? Not only in fashion, but in life in general, career. In any minute of your life, you just, you won't get anywhere if you think, if you take every single no as a setback and you take everything personally. Sometimes you have to, even if you really don't feel it, you have to think, okay, well, what would it feel like if I could develop a tough skin? What would it feel like if I didn't take it personally? And help with that ability to come up with new mindsets and perspectives.
I think it's potentially something that is, becoming more prevalent as a result. I hate to talk about lockdown and COVID and all that, but so many people are kind of deciding to retrain, and they've had like blockages in their career, or there's times when they haven't been able to get internships because of lockdown. What are those kind of key steps to kind of finding those opportunities and kind of creating goals and making, almost like carving yourself a path?
Yeah. So I think it's such an incredibly difficult time to be at some point over the last couple of years, coming out of uni, trying to get your first internship, your job, your work. I think the only thing we can do at this point is look at it as, and this is, I kind of hate myself for saying this because it's so cliche, but is try and find the opportunity in it. So with so many people resigning from work, wanting to change careers, change jobs, change industries, the great resignation, I don't think that would have happened in such an enormous way if it hadn't been for the pandemic. And so actually what it has done is it's forced us to sit at home and to evaluate our lives. Are we happy? Is our career making us happy? Is our relationship making us happy? Is our country making us happy? What are we doing in our day-to-day lives to keep us feeling excited and fulfilled and wanting to go on? And for so many people, that's been actually, I'm not happy in my job, I'm not happy in my industry. What do I want to be doing? And that's, I think, what people are really struggling with, is feeling like there's so much out there and there's so much opportunity, but so where do I go from here? How do I start? So like you said, in terms of goals, it's about creating really manageable, tangible steps. So maybe it's starting with your end goal. So what does that look like? Is that securing a new job in a new career? Is it handing in your resignation? It's looking at what you actually want and then sort of peeling it backwards. So, okay, before I get my new job, what do I need to do before that? well, I need to apply for roles in that industry. Okay, before you do that, what do you need to do? You need to look at industries you'd like to work in. Before you do that, talk to people in these industries. And it's really just peeling it back. And it sounds so simple, but to get you to a point where you think, okay, the first thing I need to do is go onto LinkedIn and find companies in that sector, update your CV, write a cover letter, write a list of 10 things that make you feel happy, what makes you feel excited. It's really starting at the beginning. And so that, okay, once you've done that, you've ticked that off your list, what comes next? And it's helping you, it's building that roadmap to success, to your end goal, without looking at it and thinking, oh God, there's a million different jobs, there's a million different careers. Where do I start here? Because that is overwhelming and that is terrifying.
So overwhelming. And I think part of kind of going on that, to use your word, roadmap, is actually being on that roadmap. You're not gonna have everything perfect along the way. You're not gonna know everything along the way. Like, it's all about kind of a bit of trial and error and, you know, making mistakes. Kind of how can mindset, like kind of training, help us to accept that kind of making those mistakes and learning from them is actually okay?
I think exactly what you said, it's that acceptance. So a lot of people are, when they look at their careers or their jobs, we're so wedded to the outcome. And we believe, and I think it's probably how a lot of us have been brought up with our schools and educations and everything that we've consumed, is there's right and wrong. This is the right path. The right thing to do is to go to uni, to get a good job in your chosen field, to stay there, to progress. You know, it can be very black and white and very simple. And actually the world has changed and it's developed and it's adapted so quickly that actually that's not really how, if you look at most happy and successful people now in their 30s or 40s, their careers probably have been a bit like this because they've been figuring out where they want to go, what it is that they want to be doing in life, from life, for life. And as we move, our priorities change. So who you are when you're 25 and who you are when you're 35 is completely different, obviously. And so it's about understanding there's no right or wrong path. And it's trying to find that acceptance that if you didn't get the exact job that you were hoping for, but you got something else, then okay, it's almost like everything happens for a reason. And I know a lot of people struggle with that concept, but sometimes you just have to give in to the unknown and accept that we can't control everything. We can control our controllables, and that is our mindset, that is our confidence, that's our thought patterns. So it's about knowing that there's no right or wrong path, and that sometimes your route to get to where you want to be can be a bit bendy and windy, and actually that's okay. That's part of the thrill and the fun and the adventure of life, I think.
And also I kind of think that it's all very well and good, like, to say, oh, we'll have this like straight path to the career that I actually want, but sometimes, like with my career, for example, I've just said yes to opportunities as I've gone, and it has just meant that actually, like, okay, maybe my career, I don't really even remember kind of exactly what I wanted to do. I think I was just kind of open to it, but I think by being open to different opportunities and saying yes to different opportunities and having the confidence that to be a bit kind of flexible with it, that you can end up somewhere amazing just by being open.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. It's being open. It's being excited about it. It's sort of giving into the unknown and feeling ready for that, and knowing that, you know, you can be faced with so many opportunities. You can create so many opportunities. I think that attitude is so important in the creative industries, where things do happen, things do change. You meet people, you're faced with opportunities. Like, it's such a mad world.
So mad.
It's so mad, right? It's so mad. And it's so out of your control that by trying to control that and sticking to the right path, you're going to drive yourself crazy. So I think, you know, if you're going off to be a doctor or a lawyer, a teacher, then yeah, there probably is a right path, and that's great and easier to stick by because you can see how your career, you know, how you want it to shape up. When it comes to the creative industry, the best thing you can do is just sort of sit back and give into the chaos and be open to it.
Definitely. So having you yourself gone from kind of working in the fashion industry to being a confidence and mindset coach, what do you think would be like the top kind of mindset confidence tip for anybody who is working in the fashion industry right now?
So one thing that I always pride myself on, and I think it's something that has carried me through and opened so many doors and given me so many opportunities, is being truly fearless. Mm-hmm. And that is a confidence, that is your mindset, that is a belief that you can do what you set your mind to do. And it sounds so basic and so cliche, but I really do believe it's true. I think if you go into things and you feel excited and you're ready and you're not scared, the most amazing things can happen. And, you know, like we were saying, it's being open, it's being excited, it's not knowing how things are going to pan out. And that's kind of fun. So I think being as fearless as you can, allow yourself to be, will open those doors for you. It will give you confidence and it will allow you to experience life in quite a fun, magical way.
Well, what a good note to leave it on. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
It's been lovely to see you and to hear all of your amazing advice. I feel like even better by talking to you. So thank you very much.
So much. Thank you. I'll speak to you soon.
You will do. Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye. Bye.